It was one line on a gift tag, careless, smug, like a private joke I was never meant to get. My sister tossed her head back, laughing in a room lit by things I paid for. And that's when it hit me. The betrayal wasn't buried. It was on display, gift-wrapped and grinning. It was a pink and gold Barbie Dreamhouse, still in the box, still wrapped, with a card that said, in curly fake handwriting font, from someone who thinks you're just the best little girl in the world. I was standing in the middle of my sister's living room, holding a $25 plush unicorn I'd picked out for my niece, Olivia. I even wrapped it in pastel paper and tied the bow myself. And then I saw that thing, the Dreamhouse. That was a $200 toy. Easy. And it wasn't the only one under the tree. There was a stack, Lego sets, a digital drawing tablet, a bike with glitter handlebars, all tagged with similar notes, from someone special, from your biggest fan, from the man in the moon who loves you so much. I knew those weren't from my sister. Sarah doesn't write cards. She barely returns texts. And Olivia's dad, well, as far as I'd been told, there wasn't one, or not one that stuck around. Isn't it amazing? Sarah said behind me, chewing on a cookie. She's so lucky, right? I turned. Who's buying her all this? She waved a hand. Oh, just some friends. She's such a good kid. People love her. And that's when something inside me shifted, quietly, like a click in my spine, a vertebrae aligning, or dislocating. Because for 5 years, I've been the only someone paying for Olivia's dance lessons, her doctor appointments, her preschool. I've been the emergency contact, the rent supplement, the Christmas miracle every single December. I didn't take vacations. I worked overtime. I told my girlfriend we couldn't move in together because family comes first. And now, Barbie Dreamhouse. From someone. I didn't say anything at the party. I smiled, took pictures, pretended I didn't notice how the new iPad was unboxed before Olivia even got to the cookies. I made a few polite jokes, ate my slice of cake. Then Sarah, my sister, leaned over and wiped a smear of frosting off my cheek. You're always such a softie, she said. I just know I can count on you forever, forever. It hit like a slap. I left early. On the drive home, I passed a gas station and saw the receipts in my glove box. One from Target, baby formula. Another from the week before, utility payment on Sarah's apartment. She'd told me the power was going to get shut off, but I'd started to notice the little things. Instagram stories with cocktails and manicures. Uber Eats bags in the background when I'd drop by with groceries. And last month, a message she sent at 1:30 a.m. Can you Venmo me $80? Olivia's school has a surprise field trip tomorrow. I asked what the trip was. She never responded, but I sent the money. I always did. And now, standing there with my stupid unicorn toy and watching her laugh with friends in a living room lit by LED string lights and luxury gifts, I realized I'd been the chump. The next day, I checked her Venmo history. It was public, not smart. Payments to T for thanks again, miss you, and one that just said heart. I remembered a detail I hadn't thought about in months. A man I saw sneaking out once when I dropped off diapers. He waved. Awkward. She never mentioned him. It wasn't that she was dating, it was that she lied. She let me believe she was barely surviving, that Olivia was going without. And now I knew. I wasn't helping a struggling mom. I was subsidizing someone else's romance. I didn't confront her, not right away. Instead, I pulled every receipt I could find. 5 years, rent payments, groceries, school fees, pediatrician bills. The day she said Olivia needed new shoes, and I canceled my trip to Miami. The Christmas I maxed out a credit card. I printed everything. I made a folder, and then I called a collections agency, not to be cruel, to be free. That night, I walked into my apartment and sat in the quiet. No birthday party noise, no toddler laughter, no calls from Sarah asking for just a little more help. Just the hum of the fridge and the weight of finally choosing myself. For the first time in years, I wasn't rescuing anyone. I was reclaiming what was mine. The thing about betrayal is, it's never sudden. Not really. It's a slow bleed. You don't realize how much you've lost until you stand up one day and feel lightheaded. I didn't cut contact right away. That's not how these things work. Guilt still tugged at me. Olivia's bedtime calls, her drawings taped to my fridge, the way she said thank you without understanding what she was thanking me for. And Sarah? She kept texting like nothing had happened. A week after the party, she sent a photo of Olivia holding up a puppy. She named him Marshmallow. Isn't he adorable? Got him from a rescue? Rescue, sure. I googled the collar brand in the picture. It was a $90 leather set, monogrammed. Rescue, my ass. I didn't respond. 3 days later. Can you spot me $60? I had to take Marshmallow to the vet. Olivia's freaking out. No apology. No explanation. Just straight to the ask. I didn't send it. Instead, I screenshotted the text and added it to the folder. Every emergency request, every last-minute Venmo, every lie dressed up like love. I had receipts now. In every sense. But silence didn't stop her. It escalated her. The next week, she called while I was at work. 3 missed calls in a row. When I finally picked up, she was crying. I feel like you're being cold lately. Did I do something? I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Maybe both. You're asking me that now? What is that supposed to mean? You know what it means. Silence. Then, I've got Olivia on the other line. She wanted to say hi. She misses you. And that was the moment it shifted. She was using her. I kept my voice steady. Don't do that. Don't pull her into this. I'm not pulling anyone. Sarah, I know about the guy. The line went dead quiet. I didn't need confirmation. The pause told me everything. Who is he? I asked. She sniffled. That's none of your business. Really? Because I've been paying for his DoorDash. She started yelling then. About boundaries. About how I was controlling. How Olivia's life wasn't my project. You're just mad I found happiness. she snapped. I almost laughed again. Happiness. Paid for with guilt and leverage. With checks marked child support that ended up funding date nights. That night, I filed the papers. Sent the debt package to the collections agency with every document attached. Rent, tuition, medicine, and yes, the Target receipts for formula and wipes, and the time I paid for her internet so she could job hunt. The next morning, I blocked her. A week later, I got a message from an unknown number. You really called a collector on your own sister? Real classy. Hope it was worth it. No name. But I recognized the tone. So did my lawyer. Because by then I'd sent him the full report. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I wasn't just walking away. I was rebuilding, on my own terms. The first voicemail didn't bother me. Hey, just heard about the collector thing. This has gone way too far. Call me back, okay? Click. Then came the second. You're doing this over what? A few gifts? A misunderstanding? This isn't you. And by the sixth, she wasn't pretending anymore. You think you're so noble? So selfless? You loved playing the savior. Don't act like this wasn't about control. That one stuck with me. Because yeah, I did love being the helper. The one who came through. The one Olivia could count on when her mom forgot. And maybe part of me thought if I gave enough, I could fix it all. Her, our family, the damage. But it was never about control. It was about not wanting to feel disposable. Again, you see, Sarah and I weren't always like this. Back when we were kids, she was the loud one. The reckless one. I was the planner, the quiet fix-it type. I used to cover for her when she snuck out, took the blame when she broke Mom's wedding vase. I thought it made us close. Turns out it just made me useful. The shift started around Olivia's birth. Sarah had no job, no plan, just a baby and a panic attack. I dropped everything, took unpaid time off, set up her apartment, painted the damn nursery. When Olivia cried at 3 a.m., Sarah would call me before even trying herself. And I went, every time. One night I found a post-it on her fridge, call T about car stuff. It was under a photo of her and Olivia at a pumpkin patch, a man's arm around her waist, half cropped from the frame. I didn't say anything then, but I remembered the T, same initial from the Venmo transfers. Same guy, I realized later, who showed up in the background of that Dreamhouse unboxing video. When I confronted her and she didn't deny it, that was the final break. Not the lies. Not the money. It was the realization that she never saw me as her brother. Not really. Just a backup plan with a bank account. Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. I got a text from our cousin Melissa. We haven't spoken in years. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Sarah's been posting some stuff. You might want to look. I opened Instagram. There it was. A story post. Olivia in pajamas, holding a sign that read, "Sometimes the people who say they love you the most do the most damage." No mention of me, but everyone knew. Next slide, a screenshot of the collection notice. Blurred, but not enough. Caption: Imagine sending a debt collector after your own blood, over money he gave freely, for years. The comments were brutal. What a monster. Cutting off a child to prove a point. This is why men shouldn't be around kids they didn't make. And Sarah, replying to each with sad face emojis and trying to stay strong. I didn't respond. I just took screenshots. And then I called the collection agency to make sure they were proceeding as planned. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about making sure the next time someone tried to turn my loyalty into leverage, they'd remember I wasn't the same quiet fix-it guy anymore. The helper was gone, and the line I drew, permanent. The first time I saw my name in the comments, I felt my stomach flip. Jason B? That the brother who sued his own family? Heard he lives alone. Figures. Typical. Man steps up for a kid, wants a trophy for it. I didn't respond, but I read them, all of them. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I logged into my own account, the one I hadn't touched since I stopped posting birthday pics of Olivia, since I realized the likes didn't mean connection, just obligation. I stared at the blank create post screen for a long time. Then I typed, 5 years ago I started helping my sister raise her daughter. I paid for the essentials, then the non-essentials, then the emergencies, then everything. I kept going. I never asked for thanks. I never demanded repayment. I did it because I loved my niece, and I believed in family. But there's a line between love and being used. A line I ignored until I saw luxury gift tags where grocery receipts used to be. I hit post. I didn't tag her. I didn't need to. The response was immediate. Messages, shares, comments from people I hadn't talked to in years. Some said they were proud of me. Some said, "It's about time." One message stood out, though, from my Aunt Lisa. "We always wondered how Sarah kept it all going. We didn't know it was you. You don't owe anyone an apology." But apparently Sarah thought I did, because that night I got another text, just one sentence. "You just declared war." No greeting, no pretense. And right then, I knew she wasn't afraid of losing help. She was afraid of losing the story she'd built, the image, the version of herself where she was the struggling single mom and I was the unshakable support system she could tap into whenever she felt like it. But that version was gone now. 2 days later, I got a certified letter, an actual physical envelope, delivered by a man who made me sign for it. Inside, a cease and desist from Sarah's new boyfriend's lawyer. Not kidding. Apparently my public accusations were defamatory. The letter demanded I remove the post and issue a clarification. I stared at the paper. Then I laughed. Loud. Because they wanted to play legal games? Fine. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who specializes in financial recovery and family dispute mediation, and I included screenshots of every payment I'd made, plus Sarah's posts, plus the cease and desist itself. He called me later that afternoon. "She doesn't have a case," he said, "but you do. And for the first time in this mess, I didn't feel tired." I didn't feel guilty. I felt ready. Ready to stop being the guy who bends. Ready to stop carrying weight that no one else even acknowledges. This wasn't revenge. This was release. And if she thought she could intimidate me with lawyers and lies, she forgot one thing. I'm not her safety net anymore. I'm the consequence. She showed up at my door the next morning. No warning. No text. Just a knock. Sharp. Urgent. Like the guilt would carry more weight if it came in person. I almost didn't open it. But I did. Sarah stood there, hair pulled into a messy bun, no makeup, wearing the same oversized hoodie she used to sleep in during the bad months. Except this wasn't a bad month. This was performance. She didn't say hi. You really want to do this? She said. Collectors? Public posts? What happened to just picking up the phone? I stared at her. What happened to telling the truth? She stepped inside without asking. Walked into my living room like she still had the right. Like 5 years of withdrawals and silence didn't matter. I made mistakes, she said, arms crossed. But you're acting like I scammed you. You did. Oh my God, Jason. I'm your sister, and I was your sponsor. That shut her up. She sank onto the edge of the couch I bought last year, the one I couldn't afford at the time because I was covering Olivia's dentist bill. Her eyes started to water. Do you know how hard it is to ask for help? I laughed, bitter and quiet. You didn't ask. You manipulated. I never forced you to give me anything. No, you just made it feel like if I didn't, Olivia would suffer. That landed. She looked away, biting the inside of her cheek, a tic she's had since high school. She used to do it before a lie. You think I'm some kind of monster. I think you used my love for a child to bankroll your life, and now that it's over, you're trying to spin it like I'm cruel for setting a boundary. She was quiet. Then she stood up and walked to the kitchen, opened my fridge. You still drink almond milk? She asked casually. That broke something in me, that she could stand in the middle of this wreckage pretending we were still siblings in the easy, innocent sense. Like she didn't turn my life into a cautionary tale about trust. I took a breath. I'm done, Sarah. With the visits. The guilt trips, the emergencies that somehow always come right after a new hair appointment or iPad. I'll keep helping Olivia if you let me. But not through you. Her face twisted. You're cutting me out. I'm cutting myself free. She started crying then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just silent tears down a tired face. The kind that would have wrecked me a year ago. Hell, even a month ago. But I just stood there. I loved you, she said, voice cracking. I still do, I replied. That's why this hurts. That's why it stops here. She left without slamming the door. Just pulled it closed gently behind her. And in the silence that followed, I realized something. Sometimes healing isn't a sunrise. It's the moment you hear the door click shut and know you won't open it again. I didn't tell anyone she came by. Not our cousin Melissa, not my lawyer, not even my friend Nate, who's been my sounding board through this whole thing. I kept it to myself. Let it sit. Let it settle. That night I slept straight through. No tossing, no dreams. The next morning I did something small. I unsubscribed from Sarah's social media updates. Not blocked, just gone. Quiet, final, like pulling a plug on noise you didn't realize had been blaring for years. But peace doesn't last long in this family. 3 days later, I get a voicemail from Mom. Jason, honey, I know things are tense, but do we really need to drag debt collectors into this? She's your sister. She's going through a hard time. Be the bigger person. That phrase, be the bigger person. It always comes out when someone wants me to swallow fire and say it tastes like love. I didn't respond, but she called again and again. Then came the group text. Our aunt, 2 cousins. My mom. We just think you're better than this. Families fight, but they don't go legal. I wanted to scream. Instead, I screenshotted every message, every subtle threat, every manipulation masked as concern, and sent it to my lawyer with one line. Let's move forward. Full pressure. Because here's the truth. They didn't care when I skipped meals to afford Olivia's daycare. They didn't call when I missed rent helping Sarah avoid eviction. But now that their precious image of unity was at stake, now I was the problem. The lawsuit wasn't about revenge. It was clarity, documentation, consequence. Meanwhile, Olivia's school called. I'd listed myself as an emergency contact years ago, and they wanted to verify that status. Apparently, Sarah hadn't picked up 3 times this week. I told them to leave me on the list, and then I asked a quiet, dangerous question. Can I apply for guardianship? The administrator paused, said it would depend. Said I'd need to prove instability, neglect. I already had 5 years of proof organized in labeled folders. But here's the thing. I wasn't trying to take Olivia away. I was trying to make sure the next time Sarah dropped the ball, it didn't land on a 6-year-old's head. That night, I got another message. This one wasn't from Sarah. It was from him. T here. You might want to back off. You're not the only one who can lawyer up. No last name. Just that single letter, like I'd forget who he was. I stared at the screen, then closed the message and forwarded it to my lawyer, because now it was confirmed. This wasn't just about family anymore. It was about the people who watched me break my back to keep my sister afloat, then decided they could profit off the pieces. The thing about rock bottom, you rarely hit it all at once. It's more like steps. You think you've reached the worst, then the floor gives out again. I was sitting at my desk when the email came in. Subject line, counterclaim notice. Sarah had filed against me. Not just denial, a full countersuit. Emotional distress, harassment, undue financial pressure on a vulnerable single mother. Her words. Or maybe his. T's, more likely. My lawyer called an hour later, calm as ever. We expected this. It's weak. It's mostly noise. Designed to scare you into dropping the original claim. I believed him. But it still felt like someone spat on my face and called it rain. Later that evening, I drove to the edge of town. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of tires and the buzz in my skull. There's this overlook I used to visit years ago, during college. When I was broke, overworked, and convinced my life would be more than spreadsheets and sacrifice. I sat there for an hour, watching traffic move below, red taillights, patterns, order. I wanted that. Back home, there were 3 voicemails waiting, 1 from my mother, 2 from Sarah. I didn't play them. Instead, I opened the file I'd been building since part 1 of this mess. 5 years of receipts, texts, screenshots, witness statements, bank transfers marked for groceries, for rent, urgent, please. I wasn't petty. I was prepared. And I was tired. So tired of being the villain in someone else's redemption arc. That night, I drafted a statement for court. My lawyer would refine it, but I wanted the bones of it to be mine. I wrote, "This isn't about money. It's about dignity. I didn't just give financial help. I gave years of my life. I gave trust blindly, and it was used, weaponized, against me. I don't want vengeance. I want closure." I stared at the line for a long time. Then I added one more sentence. "And I want to make sure no one else is tricked into calling it love when it's really dependency in disguise." The next morning, something strange happened. I got a call from Olivia's teacher. "She drew a picture of you," she said. "Said she misses you. Said she wants to live at Uncle Jay's house." I didn't cry, but something cracked, quiet, deep. She still thought of me. Despite everything Sarah had said, done, posted, she still remembered who showed up. That was the moment I knew what came next wasn't just about reclaiming money or dignity. It was about protecting whatever small truth Olivia still believed in, and I would not let them take that from her too. The subpoena came on a Tuesday, thick envelope, court seal. My name across the front like a threat dressed in legalese. Inside, a request for documents, a deposition date, and a formal accusation that I had intentionally destabilized the well-being of a minor through coercive financial behavior. I almost laughed. Coercive. That was rich. I spent 5 years covering bills Sarah pretended were emergencies while she funneled money into designer baby bags and bottomless brunches. And now I was the one being painted as dangerous? I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He didn't laugh. He just said, "Let's bring it all out. She wants court? We'll give her court." We scheduled a strategy meeting, built timelines, organized statements, and then he asked the question I'd been dodging for weeks. "Are you still willing to pursue partial guardianship?" I hesitated, because part of me still saw Olivia as Sarah's, and part of me hated how fast I said yes. That night, I dug out a box I hadn't touched in years. Inside, Olivia's crayon drawings, a paper crown she made for me that said "Best Uncle," and a Father's Day card she'd crafted in kindergarten. It had a stick figure of me holding her hand under a blue crayon sun. She didn't write Uncle. She wrote Dad. I sat on the floor and held that card for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and sent the email to my lawyer. "Move forward. Full guardianship if we can." The next few days blurred. I barely slept. I was compiling evidence between work calls and legal prep. My hands trembled every time my phone buzzed. And the texts kept coming. Sarah's latest Instagram stories now showed Olivia crying in the background. No context. Just captions like, "Some people break families to prove a point." The comments turned fast. "You're exploiting your own kid for sympathy. Maybe your brother had a point." By Friday, she went silent online. But silence from Sarah is never a pause. It's a reload. And sure enough, Saturday morning, I got a knock at the door. Not her this time. It was a process server, with a counter petition claiming parental alienation and seeking a restraining order to block me from contacting Olivia without Sarah's consent. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't fighting for Olivia. She was fighting to win, to control the story, even if it meant weaponizing her own daughter's attachment. I walked back inside, sat down, and stared at my phone. Then I did something I hadn't done since this started. I called Olivia's school, asked to speak to the counselor, told her everything. The history, the documents, the pattern. She didn't say much at first, just listened. And then she said, "We've had concerns." My blood froze. I asked what kind. She said she couldn't share details yet, but that my call might be the beginning of something bigger. Mandatory reporting, child welfare, real consequences. As I hung up, I felt it. Not fear, not guilt. Clarity. This wasn't just a family fight anymore. It was a custody war, and I was finally ready to win it. Not out of pride, but because Olivia deserved at least one adult who didn't treat love like leverage. I always thought the worst moment would be the courtroom, but it wasn't. It was the drive there, the silence, the way my hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, the way the buildings blurred past like they couldn't stand to watch what was about to happen. My lawyer met me on the courthouse steps. He looked calm. He always does. Me? I was running on 2 hours of sleep and a stomach full of adrenaline and regret. Inside, the air felt colder than it should have. The courtroom was small. No gallery. No rows of spectators. Just a judge, 2 tables, and years of broken trust piled up between them. Sarah sat at the other table, tea next to her, in a blazer he probably borrowed for the occasion. She looked thinner than usual, but not nervous. She never does. She has a way of performing even in silence. Just enough sadness in her eyes, just enough tension in her shoulders to make strangers lean her way. And she did it again. She opened with tears, talked about being a single mother, about how she leaned on her brother in hard times, and never imagined he'd weaponize their family history. The judge didn't blink. Then it was our turn. My lawyer didn't dramatize. He didn't posture. He just laid it out. 5 years of transfers, itemized, labeled, matched to Sarah's own messages asking for help, cross-referenced with social media posts showing new vacations, luxury purchases, and gifts for someone she insisted didn't exist. Then came the documents, the fake emergencies, the repurposed money, the growing pattern of financial manipulation. And then, when it was time, I stood up. "I don't want custody to punish anyone," I said. "I wanted to protect a child who's being used as a shield in an adult fight she never asked to be part of." I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. When I sat down, I caught Sarah's eyes. For the first time since this started, she looked afraid. The judge didn't rule that day. Said he needed to review more. Said this would likely go to mediation before any permanent decisions were made. But as I left the courthouse, I didn't feel defeated, because outside, waiting on the steps, was someone I hadn't expected, Olivia's teacher. She nodded at me, handed over an envelope, and whispered, "Thought you'd want this." Inside was a picture. Olivia had drawn it during class, me and her holding hands, a house in the background, the words scrawled in red crayon, "I want to live with Uncle Jay." I stared at it until the cars stopped moving, until the world felt still. I knew then, this wasn't just about what Sarah took from me. It was about what I had the power to give back, and I wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. They say winning doesn't feel like what you think it will. They're right. It wasn't a gavel slam or dramatic gasps. No courtroom fireworks, just a quiet email from my lawyer. "Temporary guardianship approved pending review. You'll need to meet with the child advocate next week. Sarah's visitation rights limited. No unsupervised contact." I read it 3 times, then just stared at the screen. I didn't jump, didn't cheer. I just sat there with the weight of it. 5 years of sacrifice, denial, gaslighting, being called controlling, selfish, cruel, now officially necessary. The court finally saw what I'd known all along. Olivia wasn't safe in the story Sarah built. Later that day, I picked her up from school for the first time as her legal guardian, even if just temporary. She ran out the doors and hugged me like she'd been holding her breath for years. She didn't ask about her mom. She asked if Marshmallow could sleep in my bed tonight. I said yes. That evening, while she colored at the kitchen table, I looked around my apartment. No toys everywhere, no pastel chaos, just quiet, intentional, mine. And now, ours. When she fell asleep on the couch, crayon still in hand, I sat beside her and watched her chest rise and fall. This wasn't the life I planned. I'd given up relationships. Friendships, opportunities I couldn't chase while dragging Sarah's emergencies behind me like an oxygen tank. But now, for the first time in years, I wasn't being drained. I was being trusted. And that changed everything. I still haven't spoken to Sarah. Her lawyer sent a flurry of emails, threats, emotional appeals, last-minute motions. But the court denied her latest petition. Too many red flags, too many receipts, too little credibility left. And me? I've kept every file, every message, every missed call logged and time-stamped. Not to punish, to protect, because I know this isn't over. Manipulators don't disappear. They retreat, they regroup, they find new angles. But now I've got Olivia in my home. I've got structure, documentation, support from the school, and most importantly, clarity. I no longer confuse sacrifice with love. I don't mistake guilt for loyalty. And I don't answer when someone knocks and says, "You owe us." Olivia stirred in her sleep. I tucked the blanket higher on her shoulder. She murmured, "You're not going to leave, right?" My throat tightened. "Never." She nodded, already drifting off again. And for the first time in half a decade, I knew what peace really felt like. It wasn't silence. It was safety. And this time it was mine to keep.